Hey everybody, welcome to Easy Update. Jones and I are here. He's gonna prep the content of the podcast.
This is all you need right here. Oh, that's all you need right there.
That's all you need.
Just gotta make sure it's not always there. Sometimes I forget it. I did forget it today. Last minute though.
Oh my god, the illusions. But I thought I'd show you the technical background of the podcast. So, Jones is working on the content, and I'll show you how we set up the tech. So, starting in here so you can see everything. Obviously, we've got our TVs. Those are the backlights there. All of the lights are run on DMX, which is a light, technology. It looks like an XLR cable or Ethernet cables. And I had to program them all. I'll show you the interface for that. But yeah, we set up all the lights and whatever so that it looks okay. We had Go Button build our set. And then I set up all the lights and I put up all this sound treatment. These are in the points of first reflection, which means the voice comes from over there, bounces off the wall.
I always try to be in the point of first reflection.
This is a monitor from which I can talk to the guys without talking to the guys on this different kind of monitor, sound monitor. I put the bouncer on there, a screenshot from the bouncer just to mess with them. This is our backup recording device where we just record the wide.
Well, you know, it gives me my strength.
So this will make more sense in a minute, but this is camera 1. This is camera 2. This is camera 3, which is the wide. This is camera 4. This is me falling on a sandbag. This is camera 5. I need to manage these cables a little better. As you can see, it's kind of a rat's nest right now. This is the monitor that you can see into this, because some of these cameras don't have screens on them, so you need something. I need something so I can line up shots. This is the laptop that feeds the background loops to those TVs. This is something I want to replace with a computer in there in the control room. We had this window installed when we moved in so that I can control the back screens from in there. Maybe run B-roll, maybe have a guest over Zoom, whatever. We're supposed to have these off when we shoot, but most of the time we forget. It doesn't really matter. So then you go into here, and this is the control room. Tra-la-la. There's beautiful Jonesy. There's me. So this is my monitor that I can tell if things are in focus. And I have the red is live to the show. So like you'll see right here, this is our main recording device. Anything I cut to, and it shows here on the program feed. Oh no. That's what's really going onto the card for the episode, right? The preview is so I can look at other cameras. So like for example, camera 2, way out of focus. I can push camera 2 and then adjust its focus. And the green lines are called focus peaking. That lets me know that, normally I'd be focusing on a person, but right now I'm focusing on a mic. But that's when you know something is in focus, is when it has the green on it. Since it's in the other room, there's a little delay, so it gets a little squirrely sometimes. There we go. Yeah, so that's how you can focus. I can also zoom with this, because I did the focus again. You can zoom with these because I have zoom lenses in there, so that means there's a little servo on that camera. Mostly I just use that for jokes, but sometimes it comes in handy. Yep, so whatever's green I'm previewing, whatever's red is going down for real. Hello. So I told you I'd show you what the lighting map was like. This is ETC. This is the board that controls the lighting. The ETC EOS. It has a bunch of different banks of lighting on it. So Mysterious Monsters is on these. This is actually, I just repurposed one of the macros Jones thinks we have to play a game now, because he sprung that on me that we needed to play a game. And then I just hit these buttons down here, and they basically do one of these sliders for the show. So that one's Love and Respect. This one is for ad reads, so the other lights kind of turn off. And so you can see on this map that I made, it's a layout of where the lights are. And so this one's at 0 right now, because in this setup, those lights turn off because the ad read is just Jones, you see? And then if I hit macro 1 again, back to our standard, you can see them fade back up, and it goes back to our normal lighting. You can also do, you could do the faders, but I just set up the macros so that the parts of the podcast would be really easy. I also have a cheat sheet for myself for faders for the other shows. So like 21 is reaction shots, and you can see here, this only goes up to 20, so I have to push plus, and then 21 is this first slider, and if I push that slider up, that's the reaction shots lighting scheme, you see? But for the podcast, I made macros because we have light changes in the episode. This is my mic for talking to them. I have to push this mute. Well, I guess I have it set to unmute when pressed, but I have to push that button to talk into there, and they hear me on a speaker in there. And if there was a card in here, we'd be getting levels on mic 6. And it's on mic 6 because the mics in there need phantom power, and the mic in here can't have phantom power, or it screws up this, and this isn't a phantom mic. This is a dynamic mic that doesn't need power. So, yeah, they would be on tracks 1 through 4. There are 4 mics in there. And this is kind of an interesting, thing. So, the mics are from my perspective. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, left to right, because that's how it, like, I'm picturing myself as the cameras, right? So like left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4 makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. It can kind of trip your brain out, because then you would think that camera 1 would be Jones, but Jones is camera 5 because, and he's out of focus, and that's because camera 5, if you remember in there, is actually over here, because what you do is you cross them across, because if camera 1 was filming Jones, it would be right here, and we would just be getting the side of his face, right? So you have to shoot people crisscross. So camera 5 is actually on him, and camera 1 is on Blood, or whoever is sitting here. And then 2 is here, 4 is here, and 3 is the wide. That's the way I learned to do it. I am labeling the cameras left to right from my perspective, right? So it's not from the perspective of who's at the table, it's from the perspective of the room. So I'm thinking of myself as the camera. So camera 1, even though it's shooting over here on the right, it is on the left side of the room. So it's first. So that gets a little confusing if you're thinking about it as from the people on the desk's perspective, because mic 1 is Jones and camera 1 is this chair. But if you keep in mind that you're thinking about it always left to right from the perspective of, the cameras, then it makes more sense. You put yourself in the perspective of the cameras instead of looking at the people on the desks, if that makes any sense. That's how I learned to do it. Maybe some people do it a different way and would label this as camera 1, even though it's on the far right. I could definitely see an argument for that, but that's just not how I learned to do it back in film school. neither way would be wrong. Camera 7, if you're wondering why it's dark, is the feed from the other room, but I have that unplugged because we were using it for something else. For Mysterious Monsters, we bring a different camera and put it in there. Yeah, so during the podcast, I'll be looking stuff up on this monitor, sliding it over here if they need to see it, cutting between cameras, blah, 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 and that one doesn't change because it's the preview, right? Remember? And then riding people's levels if they're getting too loud or too quiet, and we run a compressor and declip afterwards usually to, because Jones will edit the podcast and then fix any problems like that, stuff like that. Yeah, and then switching cameras, changing lights, like when we have to atone for mistakes, I go to that, and then I go back to the first macro and it changes everything back. And that's kind of the job. That's how it goes in here anyway. And then I just interject with my annoying hot takes. That's kind of the basics of behind the scenes of our podcast.